Martha, I think we've both got insect-related issues today.
We have. I've got an invasion of crickets, little house crickets, and
Inside.
inside the house. That's the problem.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I like to try and love all God's creatures and insects and things, but I have to admit I've been trying to kill these crickets because they're all over the place. But they jump so high, you can't get them.
Well, maybe they're the similar thing to what I've got, which is in the basement of my house.
Right.
Things that look like spiders. They look exactly like little spiders, but they can jump, which is really unpleasant.
Not the same thing, but sounds equally disgusting.
Anyway, yeah, you did not come to Trump 100 for this content, but you're going to get it anyway.
Bonus content.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I'm Mark Stone in Washington, D.C.
And I'm Martha Kelner in Los Angeles. And today on Trump 100, Budapest is officially off. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin won't have a face-to-face meeting in the Hungarian capital, at least not anytime soon.
And the president takes his wrecking ball to the White House itself. Images of a demolished East Wing have gone viral online as Donald Trump builds a ballroom. So is it outrage or is it natural architectural evolution of the People's House? We will discuss.
You said yesterday, Mark, that you didn't think that a meeting with Trump and Putin would happen in the next 2 weeks. Well,
and I was right.
10 points for you. It turns out, though, this meeting may not happen at all. And at the very least, it's on hold at the moment.
Yeah, honestly, no huge surprise. The surprise was that the meeting was going to happen and that it would happen within 2 weeks. Everything happens within 2 weeks with Donald Trump, except this, apparently. But we now know that this conflict, if we didn't know already, is very hard to solve. Donald Trump said, we've talked about it many times, he could solve it in a day. He couldn't. He hasn't. A White House official said that Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, did have a call. We're told that call was, quote, productive, but it did not result even in an in-person meeting between the two of them. As recently as a day ago, the expectation was that the two of them would meet face-to-face, perhaps in Hungary as well. But after this apparently productive call, a decision was made that there was no need to meet face-to-face. But the bigger news was that the big summit, a repeat of Alaska, where you were just a few weeks ago, Martha, that won't be happening either. No meeting in Budapest.
It doesn't sound like it was terribly productive, but anyway, the White House are saying that Donald Trump was the one who pressed pause on this meeting, believing that neither of these sides are willing to talk peace at the moment. I think we all read the tea leaves, didn't we, after Zelensky's trip to DC on Friday. The mood there we spoke about yesterday, tense and argumentative, did not feel conciliatory, did not feel like it was heading in the direction of lasting peace. Zelensky wrote a joint statement alongside European leaders today. It reads that while we strongly support President Trump's position that the fighting should stop immediately, we remain committed to the principle that international borders must not be changed by force.
Yeah, and there is no world in which Zelensky wants to give up any territory to Russia. That is why he is still fighting. There were reports over the weekend that when President Trump was presented with maps of the Ukrainian front line, he simply tossed them aside. We don't know the extent to which those reports are accurate, but we know that on more than one occasion, maps have been presented to the president to kind of put it in front of him, explain to him the complexities of the war at that front line. We have got word, interestingly, late on Tuesday afternoon that Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, is on his way to DC, due to arrive overnight. His last-minute trip, I think, reflects the kind of the latest push-me-pull-you attempt to bring Donald Trump back to the Ukrainian side, to the European side. As Vladimir Putin pulls him one way, Mark Rutte is here to try and pull him back. And we've seen this kind of repeated over the past few months. One way, then the other, then back. It's We've said it before, it's the last person in Donald Trump's ear.
Yeah, and it has worked for both sides, to varying degrees. The White House here, though, perhaps acknowledging that it was another Putin delay when he called up the US president before Zelensky's visit to try and talk him out of giving Ukraine those very powerful Tomahawk weapons. Budapest, putting that on the table, was a way for him to suggest to Donald Trump that he was serious about an end to the war. Donald Trump has now realised that Putin is still, and had given no indication before that call either, unwilling to give up his maximalist demands. So really this meeting in Hungary would have just been a waste of time for everyone, apart from Putin, because it would have brought him a little bit more time.
Yeah, Rutte's last-minute trip here, I think it is telling. Trump likes Mark Rutte. He says so often. And as a former Dutch prime minister, he and Trump go back quite a while, back to Donald Trump's first term. There has been, Martha, kind of a list of world leaders that are often said to be Trump whisperers, isn't there? Yeah. There's, Giorgia Meloni, whose politics is aligned with Donald Trump. She's often said to be someone who can whisper in his ear and get him to do things. Even our very own Keir Starmer at times, because that relationship seems to have blossomed unexpectedly. He's been described as a bit of a Trump whisperer. I think Mark Rutte, NATO Secretary General, certainly does have those skills. But it's also so clear, isn't it, that someone else has the ability to whisper in Trump's ear and to get him to listen. And that is one Vladimir Putin. A NATO official said to me on Tuesday afternoon, and I'm quoting here, the Secretary General will be in the United States to discuss various aspects related to NATO's support to Ukraine and to the US-led efforts towards everlasting peace. Remember, too, and it's kind of in this Trump orbit, it's easy to forget, America isn't just part of NATO, it is a key part of NATO. But very often we kind of think of NATO now as Europe, but NATO is very much still America, and without America, NATO would be knout. Incidentally, this official also said there will be no media availabilities. No media availabilities are foreseen.
Are foreseen is the key phrase there. Cue the inevitable free-for-all in the Oval Office, but fascinating stuff.
Anyway, Martha, sticking with Ukraine, Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, has had a bit of a run-in with journalist SV Dáte, and it's all about his mum. Martha, you've spoken to SV. Tell us more.
Yeah, Karoline Leavitt is one of the most intriguing characters of this entire administration, and she's having now pretty regular run-ins with some of those journalists, particularly in the White House press briefing room. She had a very high profile head-to-head this week with SV Dáte, who is the White House correspondent for the Huffington Post. I had a chat to him about what exactly happened. Thank you ever so much for joining us on Trump 100. I imagine it's been quite the busy day for you.
Well, it's been the busy 9 months, or whatever it's been. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it certainly is. As a journalist, you presumably don't like to find yourself at the centre of a story, but that's exactly what's happened over the past couple of days. You went to the press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, with an inquiry about a meeting that we were expecting to happen at the time between President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Putin of Russia. Can you explain exactly what you asked to the press secretary?
Right. Well, the president said, and it was like a week and a half ago, I guess, or maybe it was the same day, actually, that he'd spoken with Vladimir Putin on the phone. He said, we're going to meet in Budapest, and it's going to be a great meeting, and all kinds of further things that he likes to say. Well, the question immediately was, well, why Budapest? I mean, I can speculate and come up with a pretty decent hypothesis as to why Budapest, but the city for the Ukrainians might be a little bit of a sore spot. The Budapest Memorandum from 1994, which Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom, all said, look, if you turn over the nuclear weapons that you have on hand now that the Soviet Union is broken up, we'll give you assurances of security. In other words, for Russia, we won't invade you, was basically, what they were saying. And then, of course, they did. They gave up the weapons, but they got invaded anyway. So Budapest was an interesting choice. And maybe there are good reasons for it. I was curious to hear them. So I asked, I laid out a little of that background in my note to Karoline and said, so who picked Budapest? And her response was, Your mom did, which I don't know, maybe in Britain that's not a thing, but in the United States, like 4th and 5th graders typically will come back as a retort. We know
we have your mum jokes.
There you go. All right. Well, now I checked just in case. I checked with my mom. I thought it was unreasonable that she would be involved in this, but sure enough, no, she wasn't. She knew nothing of Budapest or why or anything. I mean, come on. This is the press secretary to the White House. What are you doing? And and here we are.
She responded, Karoline Leavitt, publicly by saying that you're not a journalist, in her words, interested in the facts. She called you a left-wing hack who has consistently attacked President Trump for years. She called you an activist masquerading as a journalist. I know that you responded with a lengthy thread about your journalistic career, but how does it feel to come under that level of attack from one of the most public figures in this administration? And what is your response? What did you say back to her?
That's just ridiculous. I mean, I've worked for places like the Associated Press, the Palm Beach Post, Orlando Sentinel, NPR. I mean, it's ridiculous to accuse me of that. But it's not the first time that she's done this, and it probably won't be the last. And I don't think I'm the only one. That's kind of like a go-to response whenever they don't like a question.
They've shown, this administration, that they are willing to ban certain journalists, certain news organisations from press conferences, from other situations where they would have access to ask the president questions. Is it a worrying time to be a journalist covering the White House? And does it make you think twice about what you write and any, potential criticism of the administration?
It doesn't make me worried, because I have approached this beat for the last 8 years very differently from a lot of my colleagues. A lot of my colleagues under a lot of pressure to get scoops, to get new little tidbits of information, and they can only get those tidbits from the people who work at the White House. So that makes them, understandably, but in my view, mistakenly, reticent to write clearly about what's happening. What our president is doing is unprecedented in 200 years of the use of the military domestically, going after his political critics with criminal cases, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot going on here, more important than getting the inside information on what the new tariff rate against Paraguay is going to be next week. That kind of doesn't matter.
There has been some pushback among the press corps at the Pentagon at the moment, many of whom have refused to sign these new rules, which essentially demand that they toe the party line. Is that an important thing, that journalists stand up and, push back at this administration?
It is. And I was gratified to see the Pentagon Press Association do that, of which, I'm a member as well. And I also did not sign the loyalty oath, basically, that they put to us. But we have not seen that from the White House, unfortunately. We have not seen kind of, we're all in this together view. And because of that, they can pick at us separately. And that's what they've done, and that's what they'll continue to do.
Thank you ever so much for your insight, SV. Absolutely fascinating. And I guess we won't expect any tidbits from Karoline Leavitt to you.
Yeah, go somewhere else. You're looking for those scoops, not me.
That's brilliant. Thank you ever so much. Thanks for your time.
You're very welcome.
Great chat, Martha. Really fascinating. What an extraordinary world we live in, eh? It's your mum's fault.
Exactly. I didn't expect to be doing your mum jokes on Trump 100, but here we are. But it is they are serious points that SV Dáte was making. And I guess, you sit in that White House press briefing room. You're based in Washington, D.C. Trump is very much your main job. How does it feel, and how does it differ from reporting on the Biden White House?
Oh, it's wholly different. There are more briefings. There's more access. It's not necessarily any more transparent, but certainly there's much more access. It feels, I think, if you don't have a thick skin, you can feel, what's the word? Not threatened, but you can worry about where your access might go and how your access could disappear. But it's not going to stop us from asking those tricky questions, Martha.
Glad to hear it.
That sound you can hear is the sound of construction, beautiful construction.
Probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money. In this case, it reminds me of lack of money because I'm paying for it, so it's the opposite.
Yeah, that is President Trump on his latest renovation efforts, which have caught people somewhat by surprise. Are these sounds of construction as beautiful as Donald Trump's suggesting, Mark?
Well, I think if you're President Trump, of course they are. I mean, he is a real estate guy, and so naturally, I imagine anyone in real estate loves the sound of construction. Why wouldn't they? But it's an interesting one. This Donald Trump's latest attempts to modernize the White House have caused huge uproar. We've talked on this podcast many times about the rapidly changing appearance of the Oval Office. Lots more gold. Buckle up, because the exterior of the White House is about to get one heck of a makeover, because the East Wing of the White House, that's the opposite side from where we are based in the press room, which is next to the Oval Office. That's all in the West Wing. The East Wing is being demolished, or at least partially demolished, to make space for a ballroom. And Martha, objectively speaking here, this is one huge ballroom. It kind of dwarfs the actual White House. Yeah. It's certainly in the artist's impressions that we have seen of it.
Yeah, and I think the White House are aware that the optics of this might not be great in the current scenario with the cost of living crisis over here, because the building that overlooks the East Wing of the White House is the Treasury Department. Yes. And as you might imagine, employees, getting out their camera phones, taking pictures. Well, they sent out a missive today, the administration, to the Treasury Department saying, don't post these pictures anywhere. This is private construction. But, I think the speed of this has taken people by surprise, because normally you need planning permission to do alterations to the White House. Well, Donald Trump hasn't had any sign off. It does, though, kind of feel like it's classic Trump to tear something down and then watch as the world reacts in horror.
Yeah, but, Trump's response surely is, and he hasn't said it out loud yet, but he may well do, because that is his style. What are you going to do about it? I mean, so what? So what? It's my house. I'm living there, and I'm going to change it how I want to. Of course, it's not his house. It is the people's house. Mm-hmm. That is the other name given to the White House.
And other presidents in years gone by have made alterations to the White House as well, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and I think you could argue that the White House isn't a sort of static architectural structure. It's evolving. It always evolves over time. Changes have been made, some of them more pronounced than others. I mean, Obama, all he did was apparently resurface the tennis court. But in the 70s, Richard Nixon, he converted the swimming pool into the area that is now the iconic press briefing room. Mm-hmm. The Truman balcony was added to the South Portico. If you imagine an image of the White House taken from the South Lawn, you've got that kind of wonderful semicircular portico on the southern facade of the White House. Mm-hmm. There was a private porch added to the second floor of that portico in 1948 by President Harry Truman. And at the time, the purists among Americans said that was outrageous. They said it clashed with the original style of the building. It now looks perfectly normal. But no one made changes to the White House like the Brits, did they, Martha? We burnt the whole thing down.
We always go bigger and better.
They had to start again after that. Sorry, everyone.
Anyway, that's it for today on Trump 100, and we'll see you again on Friday.
Yeah, and don't forget, trump100@sky.uk is the email address for any of your questions, queries, thoughts, or whatever else. But bye-bye for now.
See you soon.